Shri Jnaneshwari. Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Shri Kurubhyo Namaha. Shri Gopal Krishnaya Namaha. Chapter 4 continued. Shloka number 23. When he is unattached and free, with his mind established in wisdom, the work undertaken by him for the sake of sacrifice is totally dissolved. Even though he is in contact with the body, he looks every inch the spirit, and if he is tested, he is seen to be equal in purity with the Brahman. Even if such a person performs sacrificial rites and the like, all such actions become dissolved in him. Just as the untimely clouds appear in the sky and melt away by themselves, so even when he performs the prescribed Vedic rites, they get dissolved in him, as he has the notion of oneness with them. 24. For him, the act of offering, as also the oblation, is Brahman, offered by Brahman in the fire of Brahman. To Brahman alone will he attain, who contemplates action as only Brahman. His reason does not make a distinction that this is an oblation. I am the sacrifice and someone is the enjoyer of the sacrifice. When he performs the desired sacrifice, he regards the oblation and the mantras as imperishable and of the nature of Brahman. Thus, when he comes to realize that the action itself is Brahman, then the action performed by him becomes non-action. 25. Some yogis worship with sacrifice the deities alone. Others sacrifice by offering oblations in the fire of Brahman. He remains day and night engrossed in worship, offering his ignorance along with his mind in the fire of Guru's instruction. In this way, when one offers sacrifice in the fire of yoga, it is called Dev Yagya, through which one seeks spiritual bliss. He who is fully convinced that his body is maintained by his former karma and does not care to nourish it, he should be known as a great yogi. Now listen, I shall describe to you one who offers sacrifice in the fire of Brahman by means of sacrifice. 26. Some sacrifice senses of hearing, etc. in the fire of self-restraint. Others sacrifice in the fires of the senses their objects such as sound. Now the sacrificer, in the fire of self-restraint, sacrifices the pure sense organs through the formulae of body, speech and mind. Another, when dispassion dawns on him, kindles in the temple of self-restraint the fire of sense organs. When this fire burns the faggots of passion in the flames of dispassion, then the smoke of desire leaves the 5 sacrificial pits, that is the organs of senses. And then he offers skillfully all the 5 sense objects as oblations as enjoined by the scriptures in the fire of sense organs. 27. Some sacrifice all functions of the senses and of the vital layers in the wisdom-kindled fire of yoga of self-control. In this way, some washed off their sins. Some others rubbed the fire stick of discrimination against the stick in the form of the heart quickly and courageously as instructed by the Guru. As this iteration took place after fusion of all mental states, it bore quick result and kindled the fire of knowledge. To start with, there arose the smoke in the form of infatuation for miraculous powers. When it ceased, there appeared the tiny spark of knowledge. Then they threw in this fire the loose pieces of minds, which had become light with spiritual practices. When the fire rose into flames with their help, it burned the faggots of different desires with the ghee of delusion. Into this blazing fire, they offered the activities of the senses while repeating the mantra, I am Brahman. Then with the sacrificial ladle of vital breath, they offered the last oblation in the fire of knowledge, and attaining union with Brahman, performed the final ablution. Then they partook of the bliss of self-knowledge as the sacrificial food, taking it as the remains of the sacrifice in the form of self-control. Thus some, performing a sacrifice in this manner, attain salvation. Even if these sacrificial rites are of different kinds, the goal to be achieved by them is the same. 28. Some offer sacrifice with goods, austerities, or yoga. Ascetics with strict vows sacrifice with study and knowledge. Among sacrifices, one is known as material sacrifice, another is performed through austerities, and others through yoga. That in which one sacrifices speech is known as sacrifice of speech, and that in which the knowable is realized are known as knowledge sacrifice. All these sacrifices are arduous and difficult to perform, but those who have subdued the senses acquire the capacity to perform them. They have become proficient in self-restraint and also possess abundant yoga, for they sacrifice their ego for the sake of the self. 29. Yet others, devoted to breath control, sacrifice prana into apan and apan into prana by restraining the movement of both. Some others offer the in-breath as an oblation in the fire of out-breath through the yoga of practice. Again, others unite the in-breath with the out-breath, and still others restrain both and are known as regulators of breath. 30. And others regulate their food and sacrifice their vital breaths into vital breaths. All these are knowers of sacrifice who have destroyed their sins through sacrifice. Others control their intake of food with the aid of Hatha Yoga and sacrifice their vital breaths swiftly in the vital breaths. In this way, all those who are desirous of liberation wash off all their mental impurities. When their ignorance is destroyed, their essential nature alone remains, and then they do not have the notion of distinction between the fire and the sacrifice. Then the desires of the sacrifice come to an end, and thereafter all action cease. Then that wisdom which is not penetrated by thought and reason is not defiled by the blemish of duality. 31. Those who drink the elixir of the sacrificial remains attain to Brahman. This world is not for the non-sacrificer, much less the other world, O Arjun. This pure wisdom, established from eternity, which is the remains of the knowledge sacrifice, is the one which those devoted to Brahman experience by repeating the sacred formula, I am Brahman. In this way, those satiated with the elixir of the remains of sacrifice become immortal and attain the state of Brahman. Dispassion does not espouse those who do not perform yoga sacrifice and do not worship the fire of self-control from birth. When these do not find happiness here, why ask about the next world? 32. Thus sacrifices of many kinds are offered in the mouth of Brahman. Know that all of them spring from action. Knowing this, you shall be free. So I have told you a variety of sacrifices which have been described well at great length in the Vedas. But what have we to do with their detailed description? When we know that they depend on action, they cease to bind us. With this, we complete part 3 of this chapter. Om Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Hari Om.